With me now live, former President Trump's son and executive vice president of the Trump Organization, Donald Trump Jr. Don, great to have you here tonight. Thanks for being here. First question to you, Senator Vance is your guy. That's what you put out on Twitter today. How do you do?
I thought it was a masterclass. I know they went after him so hard for a few months, and even some of the Republican sort of establishment class, but I've gotten to know him over the last few years. His life story, his background, everything was just, he's just an incredible guy. And, I heard you guys talking about sort of tenor and demeanor. Yeah. The reality is the tenor and demeanor that you saw tonight from J.D. Vance, that's actually who he is. Again, I understand what they do. They've done it to me. They do it to my father. They'll vilify you and make you, a terrible person. That's who he actually is. I mean, he's a very well thought out guy. He understands the policy. He gets into the details, almost to a wonky level. I mean, I think it felt like he had a better command of the policies that Tim Walz actually signed into law than Tim Walz himself. It was funny. I was watching and I commented on Twitter. I'm seeing Tim Walz sort of nodding in agreement to literally everything JD was saying. I was like, I think he's going to be a Trump Vance voter, based on that debate. So I thought it was a masterclass performance, just flawless.
You and your dad are both fighters. You've gotten aggressive over the last couple election cycles. You're not afraid to go there. Yeah. Did you want him to get more aggressive, or were you okay with him?
I don't think he needed to. I mean, there's a time, again, I get aggressive because, when I'm put into a situation that requires it. I mean, for years, I was called an agent of Russia. They wanted to try me for treason, a crime punishable by death. I did 50 hours of congressional testimony for those things. Hunter Biden, the laptop was Russian disinformation, according to all the intelligence agents. Well, it turns out it wasn't. Yeah. I don't think I'd have gotten the Hunter Biden treatment. It turns out everything they accused me of, he was doing, and far worse. So I understand that difference. You lie about me that way, I'll fight. That's who I am. That's who my father is. Doesn't mean it has to be that way. Yeah. And again, I think you saw a lot of that decorum tonight. So I was actually glad to see it, because I'd love to see more of that in the political space.
Part of Senator J.D. Vance, the things that you guys liked about him was his personal story. He mentioned fentanyl tonight and his mother, how she fought drug addiction. Let's listen to that.
I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance, because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding.
How did that life story sort of weigh into your decision to kind of back Senator Vance? Because, look, there were a lot of qualified Republicans that were up for the nominee to be the nominee. Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Tim Scott, Governor Doug Burgum. But this was your guy, and you're getting a lot of credit for bringing him on the ticket. Why?
Listen, I got to know that story. We sort of joke about it. Like, I grew up literally down the road here on the 70th floor of Trump Tower overlooking Central Park. He grew up in Appalachia, and yet we still have sort of a similar worldview. In talking to him about that, he's someone who understands that cycle of poverty and addiction. He broke through it. He's living the ultimate American dream. I mean, he got out of a household with addiction and poverty, goes into the Marine Corps, comes back, goes to Yale Law School, starts an incredible business, gets into politics, becomes a United States Senator. I mean, that's the American dream. My father and J.D. Vance want Americans, they want to give them the chance to thrive again, not barely survive. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing right now. People are barely surviving. We see that in costs. We see that in what's going on around the world. We see that in, even honestly, and I'll call it out on the Republican side, many Republicans just wanting to go to war over things that they can't even articulate, why. Ukraine, for example, we spent $250 billion. We can't take care of our children. We can't take care of our vets. Our education system's terrible, and yet we're going to endlessly fund that rather than things at home. So, I saw someone who was able to break through that. That's someone who can effectuate real change for real Americans who actually need it.
How does he connect with your father? Because they seem like drastically different people.
It's interesting. They actually have a very good relationship. And, again, I think I joke, I expended about 15 years worth of political capital to both, help J.D. Vance out in the original Senate primary and then for VP. But every time I see him on TV, every time I see him on the Sunday shows, going into hostile media territory.
Did it take your dad convincing? Did you have to convince him?
Oh, it was a lot of work. Well, there's a lot of interest, a lot of people in my ear. What's unique about my father is he will listen to everyone. He'll ultimately make his own decision. But, you have a lot of people in the billionaire donor class. They want their guy because, everyone wants their own little puppet in the White House. I wanted the opposite. I wanted someone, who got it and has lived that story and been a success. And, every day I feel very vindicated when I see JD, and I couldn't have been more proud than what I witnessed tonight.
Lasting impressions are very important. There was this moment towards the end of the debate. I want to get your take on it.
That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
This, of course, was about January 6th and certifying the election. Your father had a running mate, Mike Pence. He is not on the ticket. You have Senator J.D. Vance. We were speaking to a focus group in Pennsylvania, undecided voters, and one of those voters said January 6th was important to her. It was very important to her. Do you think this hurts you with some swing voters?
Not even a little bit. The reality is I think the fact that the media is going to try to latch onto that as maybe the only thing that they could try to hit J.D. on is probably very telling. The reality is I understand that I'm the son of a billionaire from Manhattan. Last summer I took my children to McDonald's, my two boys coming back from a fishing trip, and it was $48. And Donald Trump Jr. looked at them and said, it's got to be wrong. What's going on here? That's what matters to people. Fighting wars in foreign lands, watching Iran for the first time, not through proxies, but directly strike an ally of us in the Middle East. I'm worried about my kids not having to go to war to fight for unknown reasons forever. We had peace under Donald Trump. We had prosperity under Trump. We've had the opposite under these last 4 years. And I understand the media will try to pretend that Kamala Harris has a fresh slate. She hasn't been in politics in 20 years. And more importantly, she hasn't even been a part of this administration. She copied the policies of this administration, didn't even change the source code onto her page. It's going to be more of the same. And I understand they're trying to create this moderate Kamala Harris, but she has a long record of being a radical San Francisco liberal. She's the daughter of a Marxist professor. That doesn't just change, but she'll tell you anything you need to hear to vote for her. So you had 4 years under Trump. You had 4 years under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. When were you safer? When did you have more money in your pocket? We can bring that back. We just have to actually make real change.
Last question. You guys have attacked Kamala Harris for Kamala Harris. Sorry, you're throwing me now. Kamala Harris for not doing interviews, for not sitting down doing town halls, but she wants to do another debate, and your father says he doesn't want to do a debate. Explain that to me. I'm trying to understand that.
My father offered to do another debate with her on Fox News weeks ago. She turned it down because Kamala Harris, like when she does an interview and Tim Walz has to sit next to her, she's not capable of doing it.
She debated him already.
She can only, yes. When it was a 3-on-1 debate with moderators that were so biased, even people in the media were calling it ridiculous.
But Don, your dad was commander-in-chief. He can handle two moderators. I saw him handle 15 Republican candidates.
She can't handle an interview with Oprah. Oprah's sitting there rolling her eyes. That's how bad it is. People understand that. When they hear her talk off teleprompter for more than a few seconds, they realize there's absolutely no substance there.
But explain to me why he doesn't want to do it. Explain to me.
Again, he offered to do it because she will only do it into hostile territory to us, where she knows that she's going to get every moderator functioning as her marketing department. That's why she turned down the other debate. My father offered that weeks ago. She won't do that.
You think this was the last debate of this election?
I imagine so. And I think there's the reality is this. Again, the facts speak for themselves. When were you better off? When were you safer? When were you not worried about wars? We were signing peace deals in the Middle East. That was the holy grail of geopolitical politics, right? That was the holy grail. We actually did that. Everyone said it could never even be done. Everyone promised they'd do it. No one actually got it done. My father did. Now we're on the brink of World War III with Iran attacking Israel. That's not a good place for our children. That's not a good place for America. Russia, Iran have effectively endorsed Kamala Harris. Iran is hacking our campaign and giving the information to the Harris-Biden administration. They want Kamala Harris to win because Iran, Russia, and China know that a weak America is good for them. That's why they're pushing Kamala Harris. They're chomping at the bit for it. They would love that to happen. It would be a disaster for America.
Don Jr., we thank you for answering our questions. We thank you for being here on our special coverage.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.